episode 13 of season 6 of Whole Lot of Wolves. I'm Joshua Buckley, joined by co-host Paul LePage.
Greetings.
We have Danny on the socials.
Hello.
And you know it's going to be a wild episode when we have my best friend from across the pond on the show. It is Stu Hall from Wolves Fancast. How's it going, Stu?
Hello. I'm just waiting for everyone to just leave now because you've teed it up so brilliantly that it's going to be some superstar coming on, and then there's me after nearly 2 hours ranting last night about this nonsense to go and do it again tonight.
And I listened to it today. It was good stuff. Good stuff. We'll definitely throw the E on this one as well. Guys, lot to talk about. There were 2 matches last week that honestly didn't fucking matter. Because ultimately, the big news was yesterday, Vitor is out. He's been sacked. We'll get into that. We'll get into who in their right mind would want this job. Let's talk briefly about those matches, though. The first one in the League Cup was Wolves 3, Chelsea 4. Paul, it was a really odd lineup from the start.
Yeah, everything just had like a weird vibe to that game, like lineup wise, how we started, and then like the pivot into the second half where there was somewhat of a fight, but then the whole spin on that was we showed something in the second half and at least there's positives and stuff, but that was just all big part of the charade that we've been seeing.
Stu, what do you think about the way the team fought in the second half? Because the game was as good as over in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, credit where it's due. And I did, for my sins, I did kind of semi-applaud at the end. It couldn't get any worse after that first half, really. It was a bit.
Oh, but yes, it could. Yes,
yeah,
it could. It did on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, my dad went as well, and my dad's a Man United fan, so I had a choice. I didn't have to suffer like this. But yeah, he went because he hates Chelsea that much, and even he was angry at half time. So I spent 15 quid, and I'm here and squeezed into the Steve Bullupper as a 6'2" man, and it was atrocious. But yeah, fair enough. They rolled the sleeves up, and they didn't completely embarrass themselves for a change. So credit where it's due for that game. And that game alone.
Danny, who were the standouts in that match besides Wolfie, who scored brace?
Hard to say. I mean, I don't know. Like you guys alluded to, it's just it couldn't have gotten worse. Weirdly, those players that I think people have been sort of itching to see, Tolu, I think, showed kind of what we expected, which is that if you feed him chances, he's probably going to at least cause some chaos. I also thought, and I'm ready to take shit for this whenever, but I thought He-Chan actually did pretty well with his time as well. And again, it was just sort of exactly what people have been saying. Anybody brave enough to defend Hwang these days will just tell you, like, well, if you play him more or less in the middle and as someone who can press and pick off balls, that's what he does. And he actually showed himself able to do that. So there were commendable performances out of a not very commendable evening.
So out of the League Cup, probably just as well, because we need to focus on the EPL, guys. We need to make sure that we stay up. And then the lineup leaked the night before on Friday, and everybody went, no, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. And then that lineup debuted, came out on Saturday. Paul, was that the worst Wolves lineup in this tenure in the EPL? Because I couldn't think of one that was worse.
It's got to be. Just when you're contemplating having 2 Brazilian internationals on the bench, just like for me, just the whole flip-flopping of formation again and lineup and its shape, even with the names that were picked, even that had the potential of being like totally new and something different. Just it was all manner of craziness.
How about you, Stu? Can you remember a worse lineup?
I mean, not just in this round of being in the Premier League. I'll raise you and say in my entire life, I've never seen anything. I mean, there's one. I know Paul remember the Man United away game where McCarthy got fined for fielding a weakened side, which then never happened before or since. That rule was completely abandoned after that. 40 grand he got fined. But then we did win at we won at the weekend, so it worked. But out of choice and having the players available in the 3 years under Mick McCarthy, the 1 year under Dave Jones, I've never seen anything as pathetic as that at all. It was embarrassing.
It really was. Danny, did you watch Seinfeld growing up? I know Paul and I'm sure Stu didn't. This very much reminded me of the episode where George gets offered the director of scouting job by the New York Mets, but he has to find a way to get fired from the Yankees. So he comes into a meeting dressed in Babe Ruth's uniform and is like wiping ribs on it. And then he dresses in a bodysuit and goes running on the field. And then he takes the World Series trophy and ties it to the back of the car and is making circles in the parking lot, yelling things about George Steinbrenner. And he still didn't get fired. This was Vitor's George Costanza moment. As soon as he wrote that down and turned that in, this is his, fuck, I don't want to resign. Here you go. Yeah, even before the match, Paul, we knew what was going to happen. At that point, you had to know if we do indeed lose, he's gone, right? There's no way.
Yeah, it was like no coming back. And I think just, if anything, it gave you this team is not going to do anything, and that just underscores everything. So at least it was some anticipation that it would actually happen.
Danny, what were your thoughts on the reports that the Brazilians are pissed off at him? I mean, it would go to make sense, seeing as they were both on the bench in probably a must-win match.
Yeah, even just a few weeks ago, I think I wouldn't have bought it as much as I do now. But I think, Sai in the chat, I think, had a good point that if what we've heard over the last 48 hours or so has been confirmed, then Vitor may have just been picking the players who would even lift a finger for him. And it could have been that he didn't leave them out because he didn't think that, they were good enough, or that he truly thought that the midfield that he did pick was better, but rather that they were not players that he could really trust anymore to do what he asked. And I thought it was quite funny that someone posted on Twitter today when all the players are, most of the players haven't really said anything about Vitor leaving, which says something in itself. But João Gomes did, and he's a very religious boy, and he posted some verses from the Bible, and someone pointed out that when Gary left, he thanked Gary, and when Vitor left, he thanked God. So I think that says it all, really.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. The game, yeah, we'll hit a couple of high points here. High points. Agbadou got a straight red for denying obvious goal scoring. It was a handball. I think we all agree it was a handball. But at that point, Stu, nobody cared, did they? Nobody cared. All right, whatever.
I mean, that whole handball thing, I had no idea about that until we got back on the couch afterwards. Because to us, it didn't look like handball from where we were. And I watched the highlights on the YouTube again for whatever reason today, and there's no calls of handball. If you listen closely, there's nothing. No one says anything. It was only when you kind of analyze it in minute detail, and VAR is what it is. But I mean, as soon as the red card came out, people started laughing, and that's kind of where we are. And the ball going straight through Johnston again, expected at this point. For the goal, but then that happens. You're like, well, we know what's going to happen anyway. We all prepared for this all day, knowing what the lineup was going to be, and then this happens, and it's like, well, okay, we just need an own goal later on, and then we got it anyway. It's just a complete comedy of errors. The whole club is, and I think that's what I'm guessing you'll come on to the fans as well. But it was no surprise because he's been the whole point of not playing Agbadu has been because he's been awful. And we've had to play a back four because we've got no choice. And so he's kind of worked his way in. And I didn't think he was that bad when he featured against Chelsea. And I thought, okay, he's kind of got this nonsense out of his system. And then within minutes, it's all gone again.
Keep in mind, he was the highest rated Wolves player on FIFA heading into the season, along with Fabio. Just pure nuts. I think my favorite part of the match was hearing how loud the fans were singing for Raul. That was brilliant. I posted on Twitter. I said it's both brilliant and absurd that Wolves fans are singing for Raul to score in a match against Wolves, and then singing every other possible player they could think of, including what I know you guys did as a nice little jab to Jeff for saying that it's his. That's the one signing I'd take back when I heard the Patrick Catrone song. Chef's kiss, right, Danny?
Yeah. If and when Wolves do get relegated, bring him home. Why not?
Stu, what was who was starting those chants? Because it just kept going and it was brilliant.
There was a little pockets throughout the crowd. It wasn't just. I mean, normally you've got a few guys who've had a few too many beverages, but the Catrone one, there was a few guys a few rows behind me started that one off. There was stuff. The Dico Falbi Sacco one that was started by some in the lower corner, which was one. And then when the Cavallero one came up, I mean that was my chef's kiss moment. And I thought I haven't thought about Ivan Cavallero for about 5 years. And then I think because I took my son with me as well, and his first game was when we lost to Norwich in the Championship and bring it on. And he was 5 at the time, so he's been on this journey anyway. So all them players like Cavallero and Costa and all them kind of and Catrone, and I mean we were missing with Bonatini. That was all that was missing from that day because we've got, again, like I said, we've got nothing left. This is the situation we're in, and every single person bought into it. I mean, normally you get a few say, "Oh, it's disrespectful. You don't want to be doing this kind of thing." Every single person there was singing along or clapping along at least. And the Raul one, I'm guessing you didn't see it on the broadcast, but he turned with his back to their end and to face us, and he was like clapping in his hands like this, making it obvious that he was clapping towards us, and he looked visibly moved. And I thought,
I'm sure.
And then even Adama got his little song, which I joined in. Why not? And for old time's sake. But yeah, it was one of them things where I think Gallo's humor doesn't do it justice because it was exceptional.
I wish we still had Raul. I still can't believe we shipped him off for peanuts. I know he was struggling at the time, but
he was the best player on the pitch.
Yep.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. Just more stupidity. So, match was over. I think at that point, even those of us that have just wanted Vitor to succeed, wanted it to turn it around, we were all done. Danny, were you done? I was done.
Yeah, pretty much done. I mean, I was resigned, I think, like most people were, that they had sort of, nailed their flag to Vitor and said that, well, this guy is here for a longer term reason, that, because of the squad and whatever. And I knew that there were issues, especially with the selection, but, I mean, I don't know. I think that this has been a conversation all week in a way, and even more so since he got sacked and now we're looking at new managers, is that like there's kind of no decision that now I would put past Jeff Shi, and maybe like that's been a long time building, and now like this season, going into the season, especially from this summer that we had, has just like crystallized that for me, where when someone says like, oh well, surely Vitor can't stay after this, and it's like, well, I don't know, like name all the other ridiculous choices that Jeff Shi has made over the past 6 or 12 months. And like, would that be the worst of them? Like maybe, but like, I don't know how to gauge that stuff anymore. So yeah, I was resigned to him not going, but like it was obvious that this is not something that's going to be repaired.
So we all in the States woke up to the news that he was sacked. And quickly it came out as well that Vitor is regretting that he didn't resign during the summer because of the way the window was going, blah, blah, blah. I think that's a sack of shit. What do you think, Paul?
Again, I wouldn't put it past the likes of Shi, and like I can't it may have been a little bit of like, well, I didn't like her anyway, but we're dealing with that Muppet, and I can't put it past him. It wouldn't be the first rodeo, So precedent's been set after a bad summer window, and someone walking. And you'd think his stock would have been fairly high after the salvage job of last season, that he could have done it and kept his reputation a little. So there could be mileage in it. I wouldn't be surprised either way. If
it is true, I feel like we've really been robbed of really what would have been a generational meltdown if we had like, Matt Hobbs, parting ways. Oh, thank him for his time, and this is all great. And then a couple weeks later, announced Domenico Teddy come in, and this is Vitor's guy. And then if a couple weeks later Vitor had left, can you imagine? Before like a single player has been signed, and it's like, all right, well, we've got rid of a scout, brought in Vitor's guy, now Vitor's gone. We really got robbed of some great drama.
We'll say a lot of these guys were on that piece of paper, though, that supposedly, which let's give credit here for Harry Potter can be written on a napkin, but if writing a potential transfer list on a piece of paper, not a good idea apparently. Stu, who is more sad that Vitor is gone? Is it Marshall Manetzi, Kiana Hoover, or the owner of Spoons, who now doesn't have the opportunity to have Vitor come walking in?
Yeah, I think the food and beverage industry is going to go through a recession now. I think it's. I think Manetzi's going to surprise people, and not in a good way. Let's just put this out there right now. You cut the head off one snake, Medusa like, many grow back. There's going to be. Hoover. I don't know how Hoover. We talked about this last night on the Fancast. I don't know how Hoover's there. It doesn't make any sense. It's never made any sense. From when he turned up in pre-season, a lost puppy finding his way home. It's never made any sense why he's here. He's not good enough. He's never been good enough. And we kind of heard stuff in the summer, like when certain journalists had put things out there saying after Fer Lopez had signed, and you think, okay, he's going to get his wish, and then nothing happened. You think, oh yeah, okay, it's starting again. Here we go. But it's
the penny has dropped though.
Well, to be fair, he came out and said what that was about yesterday. So, but yeah, it was clear that it was going to happen again, and they were going to push it because they knew that he was desperate to be in the Premier League. And like Danny said, I didn't expect him to be sacked, even with the nonsense that's been going on, even with that team selection. I thought, okay, because they have said this, they're going to be stubborn this time, and just to spite us and deliberately leave him there, even though he's going to do everything. Like Dick Dastardly, he's going to leave all the traps, and it's all going to go wrong for him, and he's still going to be here until after Christmas. And that's what I genuinely thought. So when I was about to take my son to his football, when it happened, and I thought, oh, okay, here we go again. And then what unfolded after that was just, it's again, you can't. This would be rejected as a Ted Lasso script. It's too ridiculous.
I always enjoy waking up and seeing a message from Stu in the group chat that says, "Oh, good morning, welcome to the more of the dumpster fire." Because we're always waking up to this news. It's well, it wasn't unexpected though. Danny, where do Wolves go from here?
Down.
And it sounds like it's not Gary O'Neill. Thankfully, somebody had some sense, and I'm guessing it's Gary O'Neill because I'm not going to give Jeff Shi that credit. I think Gary O'Neill was like, maybe this won't be looked upon very, very well.
Yeah.
So where do we go?
I guess just to recap, the day's proceedings, fairly early on, I guess even last night, there was rumors that, Gary O'Neill's on the list, and people said, surely not. And
he
then
was the betting favorite.
And then this morning, it was
afternoon.
not only he's on the list, but like they're discussing personal terms. He is the list. Like they're talking to other people, but like things are moving swiftly.
He was 1 to 3. It was 1 to 3 odds.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
I don't know what the most recent meltdown is that rivals this one. I mean, it might be like Lopetegui leaving on the eve of the season, but yeah, the meltdown was huge. Probably an overreaction a bit to Gary's specific abilities, if I'm being honest. But like in terms of the actual like choice of reinstalling him, probably not an overreaction, just because I just can't imagine how he would get the fans on side, let alone, potentially the players. Sort of discussed this with a couple people over the course of the day before we finally found out that he had withdrawn his name, supposedly. But, I do wonder, even if there are players who are still sort of on Gary's side about that, a lot of these players want to be in a World Cup next summer. And even if they think Gary O'Neill was, poorly treated or unfairly maligned last time around, are any of them going to risk a potential spot at the World Cup over it? Like we know that João Gomez, like Gary O'Neill, Andre maybe less so, but maybe his position's more secure in the starting lineup. But even if we assume that both of them like him personally or whatever, do they want to roll the dice on a World Cup spot next summer on Gary O'Neill, who just as likely it's going to go poorly as it's going to go anything like good. So yeah, it kind of doesn't make any sense. Anyway, thankfully we all got a reprieve from seeing that. Although again, in terms of missed content, I am really sad that we won't get to see Jeff Shi's announcement letter, his explanation to the fan base of why Gary O'Neill is coming back in. I really, really wish I could have seen that. I hope it's a draft somewhere. If it ever gets leaked, I'll be so happy. But yeah, we won't be seeing that, fortunately or unfortunately.
I always thought with O'Neill that he's found his level in a way, but I often thought, well, he could do a pretty good salvage job on his career if he dropped down and had a stint in the Championship, maybe brought a side back up. Never in my wildest imagination would I have ever thought it would be with the Wolves, though. And not even much like 9 months later from getting tried the first time to potentially send us back down the second time for asking and do the rebuild job from there. It absolutely blew my mind.
We could have had Gary O'Neill come in, go winless until the holidays, and then bring Vitor back in for January.
Yeah.
This is what it would say, Danny. It would say, it is impossible to expect a moral awakening from humankind itself, just like it was impossible to expect humans to lift off the earth by pulling up on their own hair. To achieve moral awakening required a force outside the human race. That force is going back to Gary O'Neill. Who the hell wants this job, Paul? Do you have anybody who you think wants it?
I'm just I can't. They've done me in. I generally can't think about it in any logical terms anymore. It's perplexing. It's draining. Every angle I try and look at it, there's no fix to it. I can't think of any of the names out there now give me that there's no confidence even to think, well, we got a decent chance of pulling us out of it, in that I feel like we're too detached right now. And even if they throw a bunch of cash at it in January, I don't think the caliber of manager is out there to pull it off.
Yeah, it's crazy. If you were, Paul, to rank, let's just assume that Gary O'Neill changes his mind yet again. How would you rank the Wolves managers since Nuno left? So that's gonna not the caretaker. So Lodge, Lopetegui, Gary O'Neill, and Vitor. Is that right? Just those four? Am I missing anybody? I don't think so. How would you rank those four?
I'd probably go Lopetegui first, but like a little gold-tinted specs in that how good was his pre-season that set up Gary O'Neill's team to have a decent season that followed. So there's an element of that in there as well. But apart from that, I just find it so difficult because they're all tainted so badly. And it's like it's not as if like they had 3 good seasons and a bad fourth one and got fired off the back of that. You're talking like months, and you can't get any attachment to that. So I'm just going to put Lopetegui in and stick the rest of them all in this big bag of shitty mush together.
How about you, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, Lopetegui left before it could go bad, so he automatically gets number 1 spot. I didn't like Gary O'Neill. I never really liked him anyway, so he'd be bottom for me. Just playing devil's advocate, I'd probably put Lage there a second because he was not... I mean, we did well for the majority of the season, and when he had a striker, we know what happened.
That's right.
So he's just for content reasons that was out there. Yeah, and probably Vitor just above Gary, but like Paul said, it's a much of a muchness, really. The fact that the cycles happened 3 times now, 3 different people, and it would have been 4 if Lopetegui hadn't left on his own accord. It's incompetence more than anything else, and that's from them, not from them above him. Each of them have their own flaws, but it's again you're lost for words. And this is after talking about this for around 45 minutes last night, and for 2.5 hours on the way home on Saturday night, and it's like I still don't. I almost can't process how bad it is. And I've been doing this for 30 years, and it doesn't. This is potentially as bad as it gets. Even when we got relegated to League One, it was kind of funny, and there was reasons for that because the squad had got stale and whatever. Then they'd kind of fell out with each other, and there was divisions and stuff. This lot just don't care, and that's what angers people the most. Like, they don't care, and they're being led by fools who have been led by incompetent morons above them, and it's. The answer's Lopetegui.
It's Danny. What's your ranking
there? Probably not too different from the other two. Although I guess just for the sake of conversation, I'll say that I could make the argument that like I might even put Lage first. On a personal level, I did not like a completely vibeless person like him. Like if we're talking about vibes. Vitor Pereira all day, like I really loved the fact that he actually connected with the fans in a genuine way. And that, that shouldn't be completely dismissed even in this, current mood. But like Lage had some okay ideas and was hamstrung just like all the other ones that we're talking about here. Lopetegui, obviously, you know that I didn't love the way that he handled things, especially in the media. But also, it always rubbed me the wrong way that he complained about the lack of investment and said that the team couldn't compete when I think there was still plenty of talent there, and that still is a bit sour to me. And yeah, like Stu, I just Gary O'Neill was fine until he wasn't, and I don't feel much of anything for him. And in terms of actual results, I don't think you can do anything but put Gary O'Neill and Vitor Pereira sort of right next to each other, because it all sort of turned out the same, which is that they both had pretty decent periods and then had pretty dismal periods where they just couldn't get a handle on either the results or the squad. So yeah, I don't know. The top two, you could sort of make various arguments for. The bottom two, whatever.
So, quick thumbs up or thumbs down, and I'll say for the listening audience. If Lopetegui returned, would you be cool with that? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I don't know. Man.
Yeah.
Stu gives a thumbs up. Paul gives a thumbs up.
You have to say
Manny
yes.
gives a thumbs up. What about Bruno Lage? Now he's got two strikers.
I don't know.
No, that's a no for Paul.
I don't know. Even though I just gave him an endorsement, I don't know that I can even say.
Just knowing this,
Todd from Minnesota gives a thumbs up.
when the stuff with Bruno Lage was more behind the scenes and how everyone was treated at the club, and from what if you kind of listen to what's been said today about Gary O'Neill as well, that he was not the most present of chaps, be off camera, and when the guy didn't even live here, did he? So I mean, that's obviously not a bad thing, because who would want to live here? Well, I'm too trapped.
Liked Wolverhampton.
But yeah, those certain people have got very bad attitudes and treated people badly. And Bruno Lage would not be welcome back here in the same way that Gary O'Neill isn't.
So, does any of this really matter, though, Paul, as long as Fosun is at the top of the pyramid with Jeff Shi?
That is what it all boils down to. That's why you can't get excited about whoever comes in, because the only way any of this changes is there is some dawning realization up in the top of Fosun Towers that it is a generally complete shit show, and the person who to blame is the stooge that they put in charge, one-man band of Jeff Shi. So unless he's got rid of, and whoever comes in, I'm not really... Well, I suppose they've got a modicum of knowledge of how to run a football club. As long as they put in a genuine director of football or a chief executive who actually knows what they're doing when it comes to these types of things, you just can't get excited about anything, because it's a constant repeat and refresh and churning these managers through. It's the same old. Nothing changes until either they drastically realize what a massive mistake they've gone on to make, or they sell up.
See, you guys were making fun of me for saying that this is just like John Travolta's character from Battlefield Earth. Stu, do you agree with me on this one? I know you're the movie buff. They put him here as a punishment.
Everyone's been punished for this. I mean, I couldn't believe how bad that film... We talked about this before. I couldn't believe how bad that film actually really is. And I've watched all 118 Nicolas Cage films and TV show, and that thing is worse than anything he's ever done. We've done something wrong in the previous life. Maybe it's payback for having bully. Maybe that's what it is. Like we had our good thing, and I was too young to appreciate half of it. But yeah, I mean, the guy's a fool. We know what Jeff Shi's like. The stuff to Manny, or some of the amount of people who any kind of backlash, or you say the wrong thing and you're silenced or you cast aside. And the stuff on Wednesday night last week where they start the chance of "We want Fosun out," which would then they turned the PA up They play music over it, and it's like, well, we know what you're doing. We're all here. We can all hear it, and I'm sure you can hear it on TV as well. That the music has just suddenly got increased when we know how bad the speakers are at Molyneux because they don't put any money into the place, and it's the whole thing of fish rots from the head, and it really is. And the guy, he's either doing it for a joke and he likes tormenting people, or he's genuinely incompetent, and it could be either or both. You look at his thing that he talked about on that Business Insiders podcast and saying he should have fired Vitor Pereira. He should have fired Gary O'Neill earlier. And then, a month later, he's talking about getting him back. And the only reason he's not come back is because the fans have all kicked off on X all day. He genuinely, he might not even be human at this point. I've got no idea. Like, none of this stuff makes any sense. Like we've talked about it before in the thing of the amount of people who put ideas forward, like just improving the screens. When I know you talked about Josh on here when you came back from Molyneux, and you were, Laura especially, was amazed how small they are. She didn't know they were there, and like replacing just those screens with one, like the whole length of the tower. Like a big TikTok screen in the corner, it would have cost £1 million. But because there was no return on investment for him, instantly he said, "No, you're not doing that." No,
which is stupid because you have so much extra space then on the sides because the picture itself isn't going to be extended like that. You could have permanent stuff on the side for ads.
Opposite the camera in the Premier League, in the most watch competition in the world. Every corner kick from that side of the ground, the main camera's focused on it. Big advert. You make your money back within 2 games. It's just...
Well, I'm sure it would just be some shitty betting company that nobody can get anyways and is clear money laundering. Danny, I'm going to take a no stupid question here from our friend Kurt from last week, the original BIP on X. What will it actually take to convince Fosun that Jeff isn't the guy?
I mean, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I think, to the point of what Stu was talking about, and also Sai in the chat talking about Jeff, I just think there have been some theories bandied about, and certainly don't take anything that I say as anything like having research behind it, because there isn't. But I think when we've suffered so much decline under Jeff Shi, apart from the supposedly very lucky period that Nuno enjoyed.
Lucky.
You have to start imagining that what he's doing in their eyes is either not that bad, or they don't care, and therefore, they just leave him there. Or, as some people have pointed out, maybe they don't like him either, kind of your Battlefield Earth version. And that why doesn't he get a promotion? Basically, if he's doing such a bang up job at Wolves to them, then why doesn't he ever get promoted? Well, maybe they don't like him for whatever reason, which is extremely believable. But I think that there's another explanation potentially, which is that, again, sort of hinging on the idea that Wolves represents this tiny, tiny fraction of their overall assets, that, Jeff can probably spin the job that he's doing in various ways to Guo or whoever he directly reports to. And as long as the financials look satisfactory to them, which really does hinge, obviously, on us being in the Premier League. And so I don't want anybody to take this like, oh, if we get, relegated, then somehow that, solve some problems or something. But that this whole time he's been able to spin like, we're still in the Premier League. Look at all this broadcast money. Look at all this transfer money, whatever. Everything's going fine. And they just kind of leave him alone because they don't really care. And then we every so often have representatives from the company come. I remember a couple seasons ago, they came and we were doing poorly and we hadn't really signed anybody. And then all of a sudden, They come and watch like some horrible 0-0 draw or something, or maybe it was a 1-0 loss or something at Molyneux. And suddenly we were buying Nunes. And it was just like all of a sudden just the taps turn on. And that sort of lends credence to the idea that Jeff Shi kind of says no to everything that costs money and isn't really that interested in like learning the football side of it. And then whenever there's like a spotlight from the company, then they might say, oh yeah, well, what's this money to us? What's 40 million for a player from Portugal? Like, I don't care. And they just say yes. Whereas if it's ever left to Jeff, he just says no. So I don't know. I mean, maybe relegation is the thing that wakes them up, that Jeff Shi is derelict in his duties. I think a lot of people feel that it's deeper than that, the structure above him probably doesn't care whatsoever. And that, I'm certainly not discounting that, but I think that there's a world in which Fosun itself doesn't particularly care, and that he's just kind of stealing a living. He's running his own little, fiefdom like a warlord. And it's so weird that, just thinking about connection to the fans, we're so starved for that. What I said about Vitor connecting with the fans, that like you think about even just people at the club, people who are administrators, who like normally fans do not get particularly connected to, people just running things behind the scenes. But there's just no one left. I mean, anybody who had any, important job has left or been made to leave. These days it's like almost every other podcast I listen to, someone will mention like Laurie Dalrymple, because he like actually engaged with fans. And now it's just like, we talked about this on Twitter last week, but like Russell Jones leaving and hasn't been replaced. And my understanding is it might be promoted internally, and that's fine, whatever. But at the same time, I mean, like, as this is happening in a World Cup year, like leading up to a World Cup year, those, whatever his duties were, and I'm sure there were many, are now just him and just Jeff and Matt Wild. And it's just like slowly but surely, this has just become like Jeff FC, and I'm sure it always has been in his mind. But it's like, what more dystopian thing can you think of than that? I don't know. He's the number one thing I would get rid of, because I don't know that, like, I think that it's still possible that Fosun could be perfectly fine owners with a different person actually calling the shots. I don't think we have an answer to that yet.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The more I listen to him calling that Nuno period lucky, it really makes me feel like this is like the Dallas Cowboys when they went on that big Super Bowl run and everybody gave Jimmy Johnson credit, and Jerry Jones fired Jimmy Johnson and took over because, I was a big part of it, blah, blah, blah. And now it turns into a shit show. That's what this is. He is flat out, Jeff Shi is Jerry Jones, except Jerry at least knows how to make money by doing some investing. He does a horrible job on the players, but as far as a businessman, he's great. Jeff, not so much. Paul, can you think of anything that would cause them to finally be like, enough's enough, other than being relegated?
No, just like he's the most slippery eel potentially that we've ever had. In any other context of business, like fan sentiment reviews, it would just be you just wouldn't get so much rope. I just find it astonishing, really do.
So there was a question on the Fancast yesterday, Stu, that you brought up, and I loved it, and I really feel like it needs to be brought up today. Mm-hmm. And it's regarding the badge. You know what question that is?
Yeah, that was to do with the Johnny Phillips Substack article, which I kind of questioned for a while anyway, and not just me. Obviously, a lot of people have talked about it, that Fosun are only here because they love the badge and because of esports, blah blah blah. But you've said yourself like how iconic the badge is, and ironically enough, I'm not even. Well, there you are. That's because I'm not even wearing it today. The hexagon badge, and no one really knows if that hexagon badge is the one that's trademarked, or the wolf head is trademarked, or whatever. But going on the fact that it's the wolf head as well, and the fact that the badge was one of the reasons, other than Adama, that you chose Wolves in the first place, would you sacrifice the badge to go to the Town Crest or the Leaping Wolves or wherever it is, or the Wolves USA cartoon wolf that was on the USA shirt that I just conveniently have here. But it's normally actually hanging up there, but I pulled it down yesterday and I haven't put it back up. So yeah, any of that reason, get rid of the badge, start again. If it meant Fosun leave and we start fresh with someone else, would you sacrifice the badge and carry on?
See, and I love that question, and I think I know Paul's answer. Paul's answer is going to be yes, he'd sacrifice it. I can't do it though.
Yeah.
I can't sacrifice it because it's a huge part on bringing in new fans, and I know it kind of goes hand in hand with Fosun, and their success also brings in new fans, right? And we're not having that right now. It's a tough sell to get anybody to like Wolves. Who'd be a Wolves fan, eh? I can't give up the badge though. I can't give up the crest. Paul?
I can lean into the City of Wolverhampton crest, like the traditional angle that way. And I could go for a reimagined version of the 3 Leaping Wolves. I think that could be turned into something not as iconic as the wolf head, but certainly distinguishable in the sea of shite that is out there when it comes to football club branding.
I could get behind the 3 Leaping Wolves. It's nothing against the Wolverhampton crest. I think it's great. That doesn't.
It means nothing to you though, does it? I mean,
it means nothing to us. Yeah. It just looks like another symbol.
I mean, for me, that was my first shirt. Had that on. And Paul's, I'm guessing, was the Shield before this one. When we had that back in 94. You had the early 90s Shield as well, which was going around on Twitter. And then you had obviously that one in the 90s, late 90s. But yeah, it was an interesting idea because it seems like the IP of the badge is a reason they haven't sold yet, which is, again, probably a world first in football terms.
Danny, would you give up the badge? I think you would.
You know me, 100% I would give it up. First of all, it doesn't matter in terms of international fandom. That's where I'm going to disagree with you. I know so many Everton fans, so many Fulham fans, so many Newcastle fans. What are their crests? What's the thing on their shirt? Doesn't even matter. Newcastle have some weird seahorse situation going on. It doesn't matter.
You want to know what Newcastle is brought in by? Because people associate it still with the beer. That's my thoughts on Newcastle.
There's any number of reasons. People associated Fulham with Clint Dempsey and Everton with Tim Howard. But you don't even need an American necessarily, and it's just like, it won't matter. People will find their way. And the biggest way for people to find their way to Wolves is for them to actually be a good team. And, like a lot of those teams, I mean, like, I remember telling Stu that I started watching Premier League more faithfully when I was living with my friend who was a Southampton fan. And I said that, but Southampton didn't really grab me. And Stu said that Southampton, the least grab you team that exists. But they were competitive at the time when my friends started getting into the Premier League. They got into Europe. They had exciting players who they then all sold to Liverpool. And they got relegated. So that sounds familiar, but it had nothing to do with their badge. And so like that's the only thing that matters. So if it meant, getting rid of whatever the current regime is, I would do it in a heartbeat. I will say, I think that, again, this is a place where Fosun can just be boneheaded. Like my vague understanding, and, our good friend Joey will correct me if I'm wrong, but is that, like, apart from the top esports teams, which Wolves Esports is not, they often rebrand, change names, all sorts of things. So, like, it might be that Fosun highly value this brand identity for esports, but are also wrong to do so. I think that Fosun could rebrand, Wolves Esports into something vaguely similar with the similar colors and be 100% fine on whatever their investment is there. And it wouldn't matter. But that being said, they also might be idiots and just want to cling on to this relationship forever just because they think that this one hexagon is the be all end all of their brand identity.
Yeah, I thought it was a great question, and I expected to be the only one to feel that way. And honestly, I'm in the very small minority. I think the most people would just do away with it. Guys, there is a game this week.
Somehow.
We are playing Chelsea on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. I know you're not going to that game, Stu, right? You're just like, fuck it.
No, I overspent massively watching the Jets at Tottenham. So the legitimate reason is I needed to claw some coin back. So it was either going to Fulham or going to Chelsea. And when Ethan wanted to go to Fulham, well, that was my mind made up. And the fact that it's 8 o'clock and I wouldn't get back till 3 a.m. So no, I will be watching it in comfort at home on my own.
I do love how the NFL has finally been like, all right, we've been giving you guys a discount for long enough. Back to real prices for you limeys.
I mean, it was 78 quid, so it wasn't bad.
That's still great.
Yeah. But it was like $7.95 a pint. But it was the fact that I had 14 of them was the problem.
Yeah, you needed 14 watching that game.
Oh, man. A war crime, as I called it at the time. A war crime.
Imagine somebody that being their first American football game they watched. Like, oh, geez. So, Paul, will there be a permanent manager in place or just caretaker come Saturday?
Just caretaker. I think if it was going to be mooted as quickly as when Vitor came in, I think we'd have had the name by now. And that's not even to say like there was like much strength in the O'Neill thing. It might have been done to test the water in terms of, can we do this quickly and on the cheap by dropping this fool in, or do we actually need to do a proper job and due diligence of someone who might have some inkling of being able to turn this shit show around. So I think it's going to be held up a little bit, and it could drag on even longer.
There's an international break coming up. I would hope it would be done by then, but it's not going to be. Let's be honest. Danny, what do you think the lineup's going to be?
I mean, judging on the last time we had a similar situation, we're going to end up with a lineup that is kind of like the consensus of all of Twitter. So I think the one exception is I think a lot of the sort of two online people would sort of probably put Tolu in instead of Strand Larson, or maybe put both of them in at the same time. I think probably Strand Larson keeps his place just because he's the main guy, despite not scoring any goals. But I think other than that, you have like kind of all the most sensible choices in there in terms of like who's been kind of okay and not going to ruffle any feathers. So John Stone in goal, the non-suspended center backs will be playing. Krejci will probably be one of them. Santi will probably be another. João and Andre will be back in, I assume. All the ones you can just fill in like Mad Libs.
I wish somebody would have the nuts to go 4-4-2. Although Stu, you just want JSL gone. I know.
No, I don't. That got blown out of all proportion that week. I just gave up responding. Obviously, when I called him a Timo Haaland, I was obviously talking about his attitude, because he was. I mean, he was worse than anyone on. And if he's injured, fine, he shouldn't be playing. But he just didn't care, and his body language was atrocious. He was arms in the air like Cunha style, and you think, well, we gave Cunha shit last year for this, and you're not going to escape because you're just the only one left here with any kind of talent. But yeah, he needs to kind of knuckle down and grow up a little bit. Just because
I'll
did
defend you on this. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it's because I've been watching too much international break. I liked what I saw from Tolu. Nigeria have been dire, and yet he's still creating things on his own, mind you, without necessarily a lot of service. Whereas like JSL, I still like and think he, will probably end up being useful if we get a halfway decent head coach in. But like, we really need to feed him very specific chances. It's like, I'd rather have Tolu out there just creating chaos.
100.
Yeah, he's a luxury striker in a system where you're going to create chances. He's not going to go looking for chances himself or creating anything himself. And in the situation we're in, he looks even lazier because that's his game. And when you don't even show anything at all, that's when you're going to get the fury. And that's kind of what I was saying about that. I mean, I'd still imagine. I mean, going 4-4-2, going full Mike Bassett and Tolu and Strand Larson up front, and we get Rodrigo, put Rodrigo on the right, and maybe put Hugo Bueno on the left, and go like an old school Darren Bailey Muscat kind of combination down the left hand side for the old heads, and play with 2 left backs. Why not? Just at least you got some width and you got some people who could put the ball in, because you. Obviously, that João Gomez and Andre are going to start in the middle, regardless.
Well, and let's not say obviously.
Yeah. I mean, if I got my way and Matt Doherty is now player manager, because he's incredibly the oldest person in the squad at 33, which I had to go and transfer box and check because I thought it was going to be Sarr and that would have been funnier, but it's not. Doherty's obviously injured anyway, so he's not there, but when you've got a choice of Chachua and Hoover, it doesn't really matter because everyone's as bad as each other. But I think it's more than likely going to be a return to 4-3-3 anyway.
Yeah, I wish this is where we needed Tom King to be that player manager. He gave the rousing speech at the match I was at. The
player
last
manager
Wolves.
while also doing commentary with Mikey Burrows.
Let's roll, baby. Let's roll. Let us look at the standings after last week. Everybody got a point except for Paul. He had Wolves winning in a PK shootout and then a draw against Fulham. So the standings are, I've got 8 points. Danny's got 6. Paul, you've got 5. Alex, 4. And the guest spot with 3. Kurt picked up a point there. So, Stu, how you feeling at Chelsea?
It's going to go one of 2 ways, isn't it? They're going to actually grow a pair and put a performance in for the sake of it to spite everyone, and you're going to look at a spirited 2-0 defeat, or we get spanked and it's like 5-0. Looking at their body language and their attitudes last week, I'd go more for the fact that everyone's kind of given up the ghost and there's no hope anymore. I'd say 4-0 Chelsea. And
4-0.
Yeah, when I do put money on at the weekend, that's what I'd go for. I'd 4-0 Chelsea, just without them even getting out of second gear.
Danny?
Yeah, I'm of the same mind with Stu. I think your best bet is that it just, they like he said, we grow a pair and starts being like, maybe concede 1 goal per half and we come out of it feeling okay about it. But yeah, I'll go with Todd's one in the chat, 4-1 Chelsea. I like the idea of someone like Tolu scoring a goal or something, and there being a moment of joy.
Paul?
It's scary how compelling both of those predictions are. That you can't really see much beyond it. So I'll go one better. I'll say 5-1 Chelsea.
5-1 Chelsea. Yeah, I mean, I think it is really bad that Wolves put up such a comeback fight in the League Cup, because Chelsea's going to point to that and go, see, we got to stick it to them the whole 90 minutes. We can't let them come back and just rest. So, Paul, the first match I watched with Houston Wolves, I think it was a 5-2 loss to Chelsea. So, yeah, we'll go 5-2. Yeah, as does my man Chris Fisher, 5-2.
Now, It is time for our favourite part of the show, No Stupid Questions, the opportunity for you to get in touch and ask us anything about this weird and wonderful football club called Wolverhampton Wanderers. You can do that in a number of ways across the socials or by emailing hello@wholelotofwolves.com. One person who has done that this week is Minnesota Todd, who asks, in these dark and uncertain times, do you all have anything encouraging to say that will lift the spirits of the fans? And if not, have you got any drink recommendations?
Anything encouraging? I don't know. Stu, you're an encouraging guy.
Well, it's a good job, really, isn't it? I think from people here, the only encouragement is that we've got 7 months left of paying 30 quid and not being rinsed for away tickets in the Championship. I think that's enjoy it while it lasts. I think just because it is, we all kind of accept the inevitable now, that we probably are going to get relegated. And what I saw on Saturday was how bad everything is. It's kind of brought everyone together, but there's no infighting anymore. Like everyone's just got a common goal of hating Fosun and hating Jeff Shi. And then there's no manager to hate either for now. It's everyone kind of getting along. And that is the most encouraging thing about this whole farce, that it's brought the fans back together, where there were like fractures starting. There was people who, look where we were and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, we know where we were. Me and Paul were there. And we were old enough, and we've been bullied and beaten down into submission over and over again. And we come out the other side. Yeah, this time it is bad, and it's probably going to take longer to come out the other side. But we've done it before. That's the encouraging part.
I like it. Done it before.
Chris Fisher, he asks, can you name an American athlete who has had a big of a drop-off in form from one year to the next, like Agbadu has?
I told Chris there is one correct answer here, and he's going to be very upset he didn't think about it himself. And the correct answer is Jeremy Lin, who had an 11-game stretch with the New York Knicks when it was Linsanity, and he averaged 25 points a game, 9.2 assists, 4.1 rebounds. It was, like I said, 11 games with a 7-game win streak in there. This is somebody who only averaged 11.6 points and 4.3 assists a game. Just out of nowhere, incredible 11-game stretch. Everybody loved him. Woo! Got a big deal with the Houston Rockets, and then just fucking disappeared. That is 100% Agbadu. Emmanuel Agbadu right there.
I have to say that has to be the right answer, because I mean, I had forgotten about Jeremy Lin. Linsanity, that's like the gold and white versus blue and black dress style of like thing that you completely forget until you're like, if Agbadu continues a bad run of form for this season and then say Wolves get relegated, whatever, that is gonna be a great, pub trivia question about Wolves, where it's just like this player who was good for 4 months and then dropped off the face of the earth.
I mean, we were talking about him as captain, and I mean, we loved him. We were just like, hey, as long as the spine's there with Agbadu, we'll be fine.
We were fielding questions about, will we have to fend off suitors in the summer? And I said, no, he's on the older side. And plus he just came in however many years in the contract. Don't worry about it. And now where are we?
Yeah. Yep.
One thing we are going through right now is Shi sanity. So okay, this one's a thought provoker as well. Steve Young asks, he said, would you forever trade Premier League football for a collective ownership model, i.e. the Green Bay Packers?
So you mean like, Wolves move to a city in Germany and they do the 50+1 thing?
Yeah.
Or is it just like we almost become like a B team in Europe, where like we're allowed to play only up to the level of the championship when we never achieve promotion, but we get a collective ownership model where the fans are part owners of the club.
Yeah, you could have a number of different.
I mean,
ways
that collective ownership group by the Packers is really just, it's a scam. They have no say. They have a little piece of paper that says, yeah, part of the Green Bay. That's all it is. Like, wow, they get a vote on some board meeting. You think those people have any say in who the Packers sign or draft or hire as coach? No. But they got their nice little certificate there on the wall. It says, "Yay, I'm an owner."
I don't know. It might be worth it if it meant that international fans could be part owners. And then I see Josh on Twitter saying, American fans have just as much ownership of this club.
That would probably be one against Stu when I would wake up and you'd have a thing and say, "Good luck this morning."
A legendary day that was.
That was something. Waking up to 40,000 mentions, that was something.
I mean, it does work lower down in the pyramid. It works for Wimbledon. It works for Exeter for a while. Plymouth to an extent. But fan ownership only takes you so far anyway, regardless of having a forced ceiling. So it'll be more fun than this. So getting beaten down every week, but feeling some kind of ownership, maybe. I mean, we're not going to win the Premier League, so I mean, I'm not against it. I'm just saying that.
We have been inundated with questions today and in the chat, so apologies if we haven't been able to get around with them. But I'm going to end on this one because it has long-term life implications. And it's Chase Branch asking on Facebook. He says, "My wife is pregnant with our first child. Congrats, the Branch family. We're not planning to learn the baby's sex before the birth. What's the best Wolves name to try and sneak by my wife for a girl? Or would naming our baby after Wolves doom it to a life of pain, failure, and suffering?"
That's a good one.
An easy one for a girl is a Molly, as in Molyneux.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be weaved in.
If she's amenable to the first name John, and you just say, "Well, we'll go with your first name. I'll just pick the middle name. It'll be DeWolf."
John DeWolf Branch, I like it.
I mean, there's a good one. There's people called. I know that there's people called Stephanie because they were named after Bully. And I know that for a fact. So you could go down that. I mean, you could call like Cody. I mean, Cody's a normal name anyway, but you go for someone who's not tainted or anything like that. So, the Wrexham fans would disagree with his performances there this season, but.
So
you could always go Shiva. The name after our favorite Muppet.
And that is No Stupid Questions. Once again, thanks for sending all of those in. Please keep it up throughout the week, and we will do our best to get around them when it comes to our next episode.
Stu, how can we listen to you on the Fancast?
Type Wolves Fancast into your device of choice. Wolves Fancast on Twitter, and mine is on the screen there for people, or Stu J4Z, which is I put it down as my Twitter handle back in the day because I thought, well, that's exactly where I sit in the stable upper. I've got nothing to hide. If you want to come and attack me, then you can. And 16 years later, it's still not happened, amazingly. So yeah, I mean, follow me for moaning about the Labour government and Wolves and the Jets. I mean, I will, just because there was people asking about the Jets thing very briefly. It was first day of university, not knowing anything about the NFL. It was like everyone choose a team. So you're looking on your very primitive laptops that they're provided with us, a bit of a quick Yahoo search. And so the Jets being kind of successful in a similar kind of time as Wolves, 50s, 60s. Obviously, Broadway Joe there. British racing green colours. Thinking, okay, yeah, not a team that's going to achieve anything now, but maybe in the future, and it just got worse and worse. So there's a brief history of that. Cursed forever.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
That was another popular No Stupid Questions. Why do we do this to ourselves?
Thanks to Danny on the socials, Alex producing, and you, our listener and watcher, because this is for you. You would be doing us a huge favour, helping grow the Whole Lot of Wolves pack by giving us a 5-star review on that podcast platform listing of choice, along with subscribing to and liking our content on Whole Lot of Wolves on YouTube, leaving us comments on there. So we will be back this time next week to see what happens at Stamford Bridge on Saturday and to talk about whether there is a new manager in the hot seat. So I'm not done in. I can't tell you anything other, folk, than simply up the mighty Wolves.